Hello and welcome back to Just Meg Elise, a podcast about healing, remembering who you are, and diving into deeper alignment. I'm Meg, and I'll be your host. During today's episode, I wanted to talk about slowing down and working to rewire a nervous system that has been built to hurry or to rush. So, somewhere along the way, rushing became our default, even in the moments where there's nothing that we need to rush for. A really high-paced world has taught us that rushing needs to be our default, and if you're not rushing, you're not being productive, and it's simply untrue, and quite frankly, it's harming us in a lot of ways that we're going to talk about today. It's slowly exhausting us, mind, body, and spirit. So there's this cultural conditioning to rush, and I think that it mostly comes from our high-paced jobs and the high-paced world, but mostly our jobs. Like, over the years, our jobs have made us work faster and harder and taken away some people's jobs and focused two people's jobs into one person's job, and then they had to rush to get it done. And there's so many different aspects that have led to this rushing culture, but it has to stop because it is literally slowly killing us. I think especially working in legal for as long as I did, there's this environment of like, you have to rush to get everything done. But I finally realized you don't. You're allowed to push back. You're allowed to say, I can't handle that amount of work in one day. I'm sorry. And you're allowed to work at your own pace. I don't care if everybody around you is rushing. That's their MO, not yours. And we can teach others through our own practice that it's okay to not rush. It's okay to take our time. They are not paying you enough to rush. They are not paying you enough to disrupt your own nervous system in order to get things done. Everything still gets done when you move slower. And honestly, I feel like there's a lot less mistakes when I move slower. When I'm rushing, I miss things. And I don't like that. I don't like the feeling of rushing. I don't like putting out work that I feel is rushed. None of that. But this always on thing that we have going on, our nervous system is producing chronic cortisol and is in constant fight or flight mode, which is causing issues within the body. Let me just give you some examples of things that chronic stress or chronic rushing can cause. Hormonal imbalance, weakened immune systems, cardiovascular strain, digestive problems, chronic pain and tension, sleep disturbances, blood sugar dysregulation, weight changes, reproductive disturbances, skin conditions. Oh my gosh, the list goes on and on. Here, we have more. Anxiety, depression, irritability, anger, brain fog, burnout, overwhelm. I found myself rushing as I was saying those. I'm going to slow down. Chronic inflammation, accelerated aging, heart disease, weakened bone health. Those are just some of the major ones. But chronic stress, chronic overwhelm is causing us so many issues. And a lot of times this can be helped if we just slow down, if we just simply slow down. A lot of our stress is because we're rushing, and we don't even realize we're rushing, because here's the thing. When you start rushing in one area of your life, it bleeds into all the others. If you're rushing at work or rushing in the morning or rushing wherever you're rushing, your nervous system is getting wired to move that quickly, right? So it's going to move that quickly in every situation. I started noticing that I was rushing cooking myself dinner. I was rushing making myself a cup of tea. I was rushing to do my makeup, to go to the grocery store. Like, why? I didn't even realize I was doing it because it became such a subconscious programmed pattern. Once that rushing is like ingrained inside of you, it's hard to stop. You have to make a conscious decision to start to slow down. So one thing that I started doing is I started using mantras. So one of my favorite mantras is to tell myself when I find myself rushing, slow down. There's no need to rush. Slow down. There's no need to rush. And moving slowly and seeing how that makes the body feel. Honestly, it's like stepping into a whole new body when I slow down. My muscles relax. There's not as much like tense energy that's like residing in the body. I'm able to look at my surroundings and make decisions more clearly and more slowly. I'm able to actually enjoy the little moments. When you're rushing to cook or rushing to do whatever, you're not truly there. You're not truly present and enjoying those moments. And so now I actually really enjoy cooking. I've started making myself like really, really healthy meals. and trying to cook as much as I can from scratch. And I'm really enjoying that whole process because I've slowed down and I make it like a fun experience for myself. I put on music or I put on my favorite TV show in the background. Maybe I dance around the kitchen. Sometimes I'll make myself a little mocktail, or if I'm wanting a glass of wine, I'll pour myself a glass of wine. But I make it a whole experience. And by slowing down, I get to have that, right? When I was rushing, I was just concerned with what's next. What do I do? Like you're almost like out of your body in that moment. Your thinking mind is so engaged that it's causing a stress response inside of you. And when you slow down, when you tell yourself not everything has to be done all at once, it's okay to slow down, you'll start to recognize just like joy in everyday moments. Making your bed, the joy of making your bed. Maybe focusing on gratitude as you're making your bed. I'm so glad I have such a comfy, cozy bed and such nice, warm, soft sheets, and just the art of slowing down too. It allows you to bring more gratitude into your life. And because your mind isn't constantly going, focusing on the next task, what's next, what's after that, you know what I mean? And so again, it has to be a conscious effort and we have to do it often. You have to do it as often as you notice that you're rushing. If you've been rushing for a really long time, you're not going to notice it every single time. Just like you're not going to notice every thought that comes about, every negative thought and trying to catch that negative thought in action. That's not the goal. It's when you notice, am I rushing right now? Okay, can I slow down? What's the rush? Some other mantras that I use are, I flow through life with ease and grace. I try and tell myself that, especially if I'm sitting at my desk, sitting at my computer working. Sometimes I'll find myself like feverishly typing. And again, that came from my days of working in legal where like I had to type something, I had to finish it quickly. Or at least I had that false belief that I had to finish it quickly because everybody around me was rushing. Who cares about those people? You could be the person that changes the energy of a room. You could be the person to teach by example that they don't have to rush and everything still gets done. That's another one of my mantras. I don't need to rush, everything still gets done. I don't need to rush, everything still gets done. Another one I started integrating, and this was back when I was still working in legal, was they do not pay you enough to rush. They do not pay me enough to rush. Slow down. They do not pay me enough to rush. Slow down. Okay. This is also where like nervous system regulation comes into play. Yes, you can create a mantra and that definitely helps with helping us slow down. It's just the conscious effort of noticing when we're rushing and then moving to slow down. Yes, that's super helpful. But also something that can be helpful is something like breath work. You can do the 4-7-8 breath, which is inhaling for a count of 4, holding for a count of 7, and exhaling for a count of 8. Or something else that's simple is you can deeply inhale, fill up the lungs completely, hold for just a moment, and exhale very slowly. So there's no counting involved in that one. Still very simple, still very effective, and do 4 rounds of that. Do a deep inhale, hold for just a moment, exhale slowly. You'll notice the body relaxing. You'll notice the parasympathetic nervous system kicking into play, where the body is slowing down. And you can also try and just practice one thing more mindfully. Like let's say the next time you wash dishes, you're going to try and do it deliberately slow. Or the next time you cook, you're going to do it deliberately slow. Or the next time you do your makeup, or whatever it is. And maybe just trying for one activity a day to try and do a little bit slower, to try not to rush. And I want to challenge you this upcoming week to notice where you are unnecessarily rushing. I get it that sometimes things happen. Maybe you're running late for school and you have small children and you're like, oh my God, we have to rush out the door right now to get to school on time. I get that. Things happen. Life happens. But for the most part, throughout our day, we don't need to rush as much as we are. But it's been ingrained in our society and it's not a good thing. We have to start to slow down for our own health and for our own bodies. Right? For our own mental health, physical health, all of it. And not only that, the people in your environment, you're teaching them by example, especially if you have children. If you're rushing, you're teaching your children, whether you mean to or not, that rushing is the go-to mode, that rushing is what you need to be doing, that you're not being productive if you're not rushing. You know what I mean? Those are the messages that you might unconsciously be sending. So that's another thing you could think about. Like, did I have a parent or a caretaker that tended to rush a lot of the times? What were the messages that I received from them rushing? Did I possibly internalize that and think that I need to rush in order to be productive, loved, etc.? So you guys know I love journaling. I created some journaling prompts to hopefully help you through this topic. So here's the first one. What emotions or fear arise when I think about slowing down? I was talking to a friend one time. This was at a law firm that I used to work at, and she was an older woman. She was about 15 to 20 years older than me. And when I mentioned that she rushes all the time, she goes, well, I'm getting older and I feel like if I don't rush, they're going to fire me or they're going to get rid of me. And I'm like, that's not true. You're one of the best workers they have. Even if you went 50% slower, that's still somebody else's 100% that works here. Like, slow down, it's okay. But she has ingrained beliefs, and who knows where they came from, whether they came from childhood or just being in that type of work environment, who knows? But she has internalized that if I'm not fast, if I'm not fast-paced, if I'm not rushing all the time, I'm not valuable. And it's so incorrect. We have to start looking at those thoughts that are coming up and those internalized beliefs and start to shift them. Right? It's a human thing. That's not your fault for having those beliefs, but we can begin to try and shift these things and change these things. So here's the next journaling prompt. Do I equate rushing with being valuable, productive, or loved? And why? Here's the next one. When was the last time I felt completely unbothered and unhurried? What was different about that moment? And what was happening in that moment? Was I on vacation? Was I at the beach? And picturing that now and then asking yourself, can I bring more of that energy into my everyday life? Can I bring more vacation mode flow energy into the rest of my life? We have to be conscious about bringing it in. We have to notice when we're rushing and then trying to shift that with love and compassion, not judgment. Right? We're not judging ourselves if we're rushing, trying not to be your own internal bully, right? Speaking to yourself lovingly like a loving parent would do. I love you. It's okay. We don't need to rush right now. Everything will get done, even if we're not rushing. Taking it slow, everything is still going to get finished. So here's another journaling prompt for you. How does rushing impact my body physically, my breathing, my heartbeat, my posture? So you will notice when you're rushing, like you're not focusing on certain things anymore because you're too focused on finishing the task at hand, right? You're not focusing on your posture, so you tend to slouch more. Maybe your heartbeat starts rising. Maybe your blood pressure starts rising. Maybe your breathing becomes very shallow. When we're anxious, and I believe I've talked about this in a previous episode, our breathing becomes very shallow. Like, think about the last time you were really anxious. Your breathing was probably like very fast-paced but shallow. So when we practice something like breath work, it is the body then telling the mind, it's okay, we're safe right now. Okay, when you inhale fully and exhale very, very slowly, it's the body telling the mind, I'm safe. And this comes from an evolutionary place. I think I've said this before. For example, if you were prey getting chased by a predator, when you're being chased in that moment or you're hiding, your breath is very shallow because you don't want them to hear you, right? You don't want to get caught by this predator. But the second that predator is gone and you're safe, an animal will start to naturally breathe deeper again, right? And exhale slower. It's them telling their body, we're safe again, we're safe. The same thing is happening in us. So we can create those environments. We can create those feel good, relaxed hormones and thoughts just by simply breathing deeply. And you'll see this, like, a good example is when I look at a duck on a pond. Let's say that two ducks, they get into a little tiff really quickly, and then, the tiff ends and then they float away from each other. You'll notice both ducks, they shake themselves violently right after that little interaction. They'll kind of like shake their little feathers out real quick. That's them releasing that energy from that little tiff or that little argument. So animals have a natural ability to release that tension that they're holding instead of carrying it into the rest of their day. Humans, unfortunately, over time, we have forgotten the natural ways of how to release that really stressful, hurrying, rushing type of energy. Another great way to release it is like what those ducks do in shaking the body. Something that I've been doing lately, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but it's important. to help myself sleep before bed, I'll turn on like tribal dancing music or like drum dancing music, and I literally just dance around my house, like doing like weird dancing movements, just kind of like shaking out my body. That is a beautiful way to release energy. The same way that dancing is a beautiful way to release energy. So that's another thing that you can do. Dancing around your kitchen, dancing around your house, putting your favorite music on, whatever it is, but trying to release that really stagnant, stressful, tense energy from the body and trying to relax more as often as you can. Okay, and I have one last journaling prompt for you. Who in my life can I look to who models living slowly? And what can I do or mirror from them? And then also, who in my life has modeled rushing? So again, this is not about perfection, and it will take time. I'm still finding myself rushing through certain tasks, and I'm like, Megan, why are you rushing? It's because you're wired to rush. It's because you worked in the legal field for way too long, and it wired you to rush. That's okay, giving myself compassion in those moments, but I still say to myself, there's no need to rush right now. Slow down. There's no need to rush. And trying to, again, bring even gratitude into that moment or more presence into that moment, so that it's not some mundane task that I'm trying to rush through. It's actually something that I can maybe enjoy, So thank you so much for joining me today. If you want to go deeper on your healing journey, there are many different ways to connect, all of which will be linked below in the show description notes. My book, Don't You Dare, is available for purchase on Amazon. If you'd like to dive into the ego voice or shadow work a little bit deeper, I think that is a beautiful tool to do that. My most loved meditation bundle is also available for purchase. These are my highest rated meditations over the years. I also have a course called the Affirmation Reset course, which helps us rewire negative and limiting beliefs. That is linked below. I offer one-on-one coaching and hypnotherapy services. If you're interested in a session with me, please visit my website, meganshirey.com, meganshirey.com. I teach a free live guided meditation every Sunday morning on the Insight Timer app at 10 Eastern, 9 Central, 8 Mountain, 7 Pacific. So hopefully you can join us there. And also be sure to join us on Patreon for exclusive meditations, behind-the-scenes reflections, and a soft healing community space. And if you enjoy these episodes, please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and please leave us a review. It helps us to reach more listeners. May you be happy, may you be well, may you be joyous and at ease. Sending you infinite love and light, and until next time.